wrote her poetry in different languages, including English, Afrikaans and German. Now, in her latest poetry collection book titled REMNANTS RESTANTE RESTE, she gives us a glimpse of her life's journey using words and visual imagination. Annette joins me now from our studios in Seapoint in Cape Town to help us unpack this reader. Very good morning to you, Annette. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome to Morning Live.
Thank you. Good morning to you.
Good morning and a warm welcome indeed. Now, in your poetry, you attest to the rich inner world of a woman who has sharpened her sensitivity against reality from a younger age. Take us through the inspiration behind writing this body of work.
My inspiration came in drips and drabs, gradually. And one tends to go back to one's childhood. That's where I started with the collection. Building from there, the title gives you a clue. It's called Remnants. So remnants, little snippets from my life.
And I would imagine it must be very hard and challenging and very complex writing these poems in 3 different languages. Tell us how you managed to do that.
You know, I think in 3 languages, and it depends when the inspiration comes. Does it come in Afrikaans or in English or in German? And whatever the case may be, I will just start with that language. So the poems weren't all written in English or in Afrikaans and then translated. Some were written in English, some in Afrikaans, some in German, and then translated as was needed.
Okay. Now, your poetry is also big on empowering women, particularly from a young age. Tell us how you represent them in this particular book and how their interests find expression in it.
I never actually thought about it that way, but yes, one looks around you at women. But generally, I look at life as a whole, and one can only see from your own viewpoint. So I started off with myself as a little girl and some run-ins I had with my father.
Tell us more about that and why you decided to write the book. Is it purely out of, your personal experiences or maybe to inspire young girls?
I think one would obviously like to inspire young girls, and I hope they would be, but a book like this begins gradually, and when you start writing poetry, it's really far back in your mind to think that one day this will become a book. So it happens bit by bit, and yes, I hope young women will read this book.
And I certainly hope so too, and I hope that they will be inspired and will learn more. And I do understand that you'll be reading your body of work at the McGregor Poetry Festival taking place in August. Tell us more about this.
That's correct. It's a lovely festival, annual festival in McGregor, and I'll be taking part with 3 other women poets, and the title of our event is The Fountain of Aging. So we'll be speaking about a woman's experience of different stages of her life moving towards old age.
And now that this book is done and published, can we expect some more volumes from you in the future?
I'm quite sure, yes, because I don't think I could ever stop writing. So there will be more coming up.
All right, just before I let you go, please read us one of your poems.
I will read to you a poem called Clipped. On those days, I ran about the garden like a wild foal. My father was convinced that little devils nested in my mane. White sheet, draped over small shoulders, I was made to sit so he could snip, to exercise the sprites who whispered in my ears. I emerged bobbed, cut straight, in step.
Talk us through that. What was articulated, what sort of message was articulated in that poem? What was going through your mind as you were writing it?
Well, I just remembered that day, and at that young age, one tends to be a bit wild. I was a tomboy, and whenever I got a bit too wild for my father's liking, he thought it was time for a haircut. And as you can imagine, I did not like that one bit. I also think it's symbolic of the way that fathers sometimes tend to want to push their little daughters into following the rules. And I was having none of that at that stage.
All right, Annette, thank you so much. We appreciate your time. Annette Snyckers is a visual artist and poet. She just joined us from Cape Town for a chat about her first volume of poetry book titled Remnants Restante Reste. This is Morning Live. Let's take an ad break.